What's up guys, Redwing here, and welcome to another video. Today's video, as promised in my previous post, will be part 2 of What If Ahsoka Joined Maul. So without any further ado, let's begin with the second and final part of our story. Our story continues on Coruscant as blaster fire roared inside of the Jedi Temple, like wild beasts that were certain to extinguish their prey. Ahsoka and Anakin dueled amidst the chaos, blue against blue. Ahsoka moved with fluid grace, while Anakin moved with efficiency, fluidness, and pure strength that not even Yoda could match. Yet even during the unimaginable chaos that was unfolding, Ahsoka still tried to reach her former master. She told him that she was sorry for not coming sooner, and tells him that if he had come to her about what was going on, she could have helped him. Vader doesn't listen and continues to attack Ahsoka. Meanwhile, on the Venator, Maul marched through the hallway as blood, screams, blaster fire, and confusion rocked the ship. He would find his lightsaber on the belt of one of the clones, and use the Force to ignite it before summoning it. Then, after carving his way through the rest of the clones, he would steal a ship from the hangar, making his way to the Jedi Temple. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan's troops would turn on him while he was en route to Coruscant. Thus, he was forced to escape in an escape pod. Luckily, he crossed paths with Bail Organa's Tantive 4, where he would meet with Yoda. Yoda explained that Order 66 happened while he was getting ready to leave Kashyyyk, and Bail Organa had rescued him. This goes similarly to how it goes in the original timeline, and they set a course for Coruscant. Meanwhile, in the Jedi Temple archives, Anakin and Ahsoka continue their duel, emotion spilling out in the process. However, during the fight, Ahsoka senses it, a flicker of fear, the fear of loss. Ahsoka would use this to her advantage, asking Anakin what it was that he was so scared of losing. Then, upon sensing Anakin's thoughts, she sensed that it wasn't what he was scared of losing, but rather who he was scared of losing. This was a fear of losing Padme. So Ahsoka, after being driven back, and when Anakin readies himself for the killing blow, would go on to ask the question that would change everything. What would Padme think of him now? What would Padme think if she found out that Anakin had murdered Jedi Knights, murdered children, for her behalf? For the first time, Anakin hesitated. Then, Maul would jump into the fight, taking both Anakin and Ahsoka by surprise as he savagely attacked Anakin. Ahsoka, however, knowing that her master was still in there somewhere, attacks Maul in return, trying to get the former Sith Lord to stop. Maul persists, however, and attempts to kill Ahsoka, but Anakin, who has turned back to the light side, attacks Maul in retaliation, and Maul is consumed by fear as Anakin readies himself to kill him. Ahsoka, though, gets in the way and explains Maul's alliance with her. Anakin understands, and the 3 Force users leave the temple so as to hide in the Coruscant underworld. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan and Yoda arrive on Coruscant a little bit earlier than in the original timeline, and they pick up Maul, Anakin, and Ahsoka. Obi-Wan is surprised to see that Maul is with Anakin and Ahsoka, but after Ahsoka explains, the 2 masters trust her, but with much hesitation to do so. The 5 Force users then make plans to confront Sidious that night before his plans were officially complete, and they set off straight for the Chancellor's office. Meanwhile, Palpatine looks upon Coruscant with an evil smile as he feels the deaths of many Jedi throughout the galaxy. Then, however, he feels Anakin in the Force, and he feels that his loyalty wasn't as absolute as he had previously thought. He then attempts to leave the Chancellor's office so as to confront Anakin, but it is too late, as 6 blades then ignited. Maul had his saber staff, and Anakin was leading the charge, now fully realizing the scope of Palpatine's cruel manipulations. Palpatine's eyes glowed with malevolent glee as he rose to his feet, the darkness around him coiling like a living monster that would give even demons nightmares. His yellow gaze locked on Anakin, who stood at the front of the group, his face a mask of determination, yet behind his eyes flickered the pain of betrayal and the guilt of recent sins. Palpatine spat out his disappointment, his voice echoing with a dark resonance as Obi-Wan and Yoda realized Anakin's role in all of this. Anakin's voice trembled at first, but grew steady as he told Palpatine that he had trusted him to save the one he loved, trusted him to do what was right. His eyes narrowed before then angrily telling Sidious that he had lied to him and twisted his fear into something monstrous and destructive. Maul hissed, his saber staff humming menacingly as he attempted to attack Sidious. Ahsoka also attacked, blue light casting a glow across her face. Yoda's small frame stepped forward, calm but firm as he attacked as well. Obi-Wan, his saber held in a tight grip, cast Anakin a look that mixed sorrow and hope, but he followed suit. Palpatine's laughter filled the room, cold and triumphant, as he thrust out his hands, lightning surging towards the Jedi in a blinding cascade of white and blue. Anakin, driven by a newfound clarity, intercepted the lightning with his saber, the energy crackling and arcing around him. He grunted under the strain, but held firm, his blade an unwavering barrier between Palpatine and his friends. Anakin growled as he pressed his attacks, his eyes locked on the man who had deceived him, the man who had ordered the attacks on his wife. Maul lunged in, his saber staff spinning like a crimson cyclone. But Sidious met his attack with a savage swipe, countering Maul's blows with vicious efficiency. Sparks flew as blades clashed, each strike echoing the thunder in the Grand Chamber. But then, Sidious would ultimately gain the upper hand on Maul after separating the Jedi from him, and Maul would die at the hands of Sidious. Ahsoka then moved to flank Sidious, her twin blades dancing in a blur of motion as she parried a slash that nearly took her head. Yoda leaped high into the air, flipping over Sidious and landing behind him, his small green saber slicing downward with precision. Obi-Wan and Anakin moved in tandem, pressing the advantage. Sidious roared in fury, the dark side swirling around him like a storm, as he swore that the galaxy would bow before his wrath. Anakin's saber locked with Sidious's crimson one. Their eyes met, dark and light clashing in a silent, desperate battle. Anakin would then argue, no, the galaxy would be free from the tyranny of the Sith. With a final surge of power, Anakin's blade pushed Sidious's saber back, opening his guard. Ahsoka darted in, her sabers whirling, one slashed high, the other low. Sidious staggered, his face contorted in disbelief as the twin strikes found their mark. Obi-Wan and Yoda held Sidious down with the Force, as Anakin would then pierce his blade through the heart of the Sith Lord, extinguishing the darkness that had consumed the galaxy for far too long. The Chancellor let out a strangled scream, his face contorted in agony as the dark side recoiled from his dying form. His eyes met Anakin's one last time, a final whisper of venom.
You were destined to be mine.
Anakin stared back, his face resolute. No, I choose my own destiny. Sidious collapsed, lifeless, as his presence in the Force dissipated like smoke in the wind. Silence filled the chamber, broken only by the sound of ragged breathing. Anakin looked around at Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Yoda, each of them worn out, but alive. Obi-Wan exhaled deeply as Ahsoka glanced at Anakin, her expression equally being relief and uncertainty as she asked what would happen next. Anakin turned towards the shattered window, the cityscape of Coruscant stretching out before them. fires still burned in the distance, a reminder of the pain and darkness they had all endured. A reminder of the destruction and agony that Anakin had caused. Anakin, in response to Ahsoka, would say that they would rebuild and find all of the survivors. Yoda nodded gravely and accepted Anakin's words. Together, the 4 Force users stepped forward into a galaxy forever changed by their choices. After that night, many survivors would return to the temple, including Cal Kestis, Caleb Dume, and Baylan Skoll. Obi-Wan would become Master of the Order, taking Mace Windu's place after his role in taking down Sidious. Padme would ultimately give birth to twins Luke and Leia, and she would survive. Ahsoka would rejoin the Jedi Order, and she would ultimately become a Jedi Knight as a result of this. Bail Organa would be elected as the next Supreme Chancellor after the evidence of Palpatine's identity was exposed, and his first act as Chancellor would be to deactivate Order 66, and to work with the Jedi to make sure the galaxy would recover. Anakin would struggle with his guilt after everything that had happened, and he would inform Obi-Wan and Yoda of his decision to leave the Jedi Order. The two masters would ultimately understand, and Obi-Wan would tell Anakin that he would always be there for him no matter what happened, and promises to visit him. Ahsoka would also promise to visit Anakin whenever she could. Yoda says the same, while also allowing Anakin to keep his lightsaber. Yoda thanks Anakin for ultimately bringing balance to the Force. Only a single nod is given in response to all of this, before Anakin sets off for Naboo with Padme and their children, where they would live in a cottage on the Naboo countryside. It is on Naboo that Anakin feels as though one chapter of his life had closed, and a new, happier chapter had begun. And so, ultimately, due to this, and due to the guilt that he still felt for his actions on Coruscant, Anakin would ultimately close himself off from the Force, as balance was finally restored. Well, folks, that is the final part of our story today. Do stay tuned for the full movie set to come out on Tuesday here on YouTube. Do leave a like on the video if you enjoyed. Turn on those notifications if you're already subscribed so you don't miss a thing. Follow my Instagram at Star Wars Red Wing. Subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching. May the Force be with you, and I'll see y'all later.